say a couple of things. In that there's been some criticism about how long it's taken us to get the report done. And our first meeting was March 7th. So if you figure that the 180 days from March 7th would be approximately September 7th, we go by that time frame, I think that we've done a pretty good job. It's not our, it's been a long process, and it took the village a while to get all the requests in, and Corinne has given us a time frame on why it took as long as it did. But as far as MRB and us doing our job, I really don't think that there can be too many complaints because of the 180-day rule. From the day that we started, we're pretty much done. And I just wanted to bring that up because, it's a small community. I hear a lot of rumors. There are a lot of bickering going on. I think it's important for people to know where we stand and why we are in the position we're in. So with that, I'm going to turn everything over to Diane. She's got some remarks to make.
Well, we're here tonight to talk about progress to date, as you said, about next steps, and then there are reports forthcoming on 2 of the remaining pieces of information for the committee to consider. As far as progress to date, I wanted to remind everyone that the website contains a status page, and it has video and it has minutes of each and every of the full committee meetings. And there have been 16, when I went back and looked, there have been 16, including tonight, 16 full committee meetings so far. And on the status page on the website, residents can find a progress checklist, so they can actually see the progression through the process so far. I honestly, I think the committee should be commended for the work that they've done. In addition to those 16 full committee meetings, many subcommittee meetings took place to prepare and discuss options to bring to the full committee. And apart from even the subcommittee meetings, there was a lot of homework. You guys did a lot of interviews, you did a lot of information gathering and discussions to support those full committee discussions. And some of those were really time-consuming and difficult. I think that people not directly involved in the process might incorrectly assume that it's simple and straightforward, and I think at this point the committee would agree that that's just not the case. And as I look around the table and see the size that your notebooks have expanded to, over the last several weeks, I think that tells quite a story. So, to date, many of the critical pieces of information have been gathered, but the committee has also now made determinations and documented the assumptions that we needed that would be used in place of the factual data in order to advance the process and meet the further escalated timeframe. So as of yesterday, we have now compiled all the information that we believe is necessary to complete the fiscal analysis. In that analysis, MRB Group is calculating the financial impacts of all those service delivery options that you guys considered. And we'll be doing the calculations to show the impacts for several different groups. For the former village residents, for the former town outside of village residents, and special district residents. And so we'll be showing Alloway Lighting District, Gristmill Lighting District, and the town-wide fire district. And so for that display of information, 4 funds and their associated tax rates or fees are going to be demonstrated. The general fund, the highway fund, and the water and sewer funds. So costs of the implementation of the dissolution plan will also be calculated. And then once all of those calculations are done, they will be represented in a tax rate impact, in a cost of government services impact, and a per capita impact. So that's the work that's in progress right now, and that's really what we're doing. Once that fiscal analysis is done for the dissolution plan service delivery options that were discussed, then the entire analysis is repeated again, contemplating the impacts of the alternatives to dissolution for inclusion in the plan by the committee. So the same financial calculations and findings are going to be created, including the cost for implementation of the alternatives to dissolution. So, in the interest of further expediting the process, we're recommending that the next step be to incorporate the findings directly into a draft plan for review by the committee. But tonight's meeting is then to review the final pieces of information that were tasked to you guys for renovation costs, and then the mayor will also be reporting on her work in terms of union impact negotiations. So these just need to be formally presented and recognized by the committee.
Okay. Well, we'll start with the renovations to the current village hall.
Yeah. Corinne, did you get the, I didn't, Jason didn't, he dropped one off for you. I didn't see it. There's an explanation on there. I didn't get a chance to read it.
Yeah, I think somebody,
I have
Jim got it too?
No, I didn't get it. No.
Oh, okay, somebody picked it up.
I did.
Sure,
Oh, you
picked it up.
did, okay.
I read it, I talked to
We never
him.
seen it. We never seen it.
Okay.
I gave him the values. Basically, there were there's two different drawings along with two different recommendations. One was to expand the current village boardroom by 300 feet by knocking out a wall and giving us about as much space as they have now upstairs. That'll be a cost of $140,000 plus $12,000 in architect fees for a total of $152,000. Then there was another option of adding 150 square feet by knocking out the wall going toward the mayor's office, and that was $120,000 plus $12,000 for fees. So when I talked to Diane and Connie, I told them to use the $152,000 figure, which was the 300 square foot addition, for their recommendation for their values and the cost of the construction.
Yeah, let me say this to the rest of the committee. When we first met, there was an issue with the load-bearing walls, and when that comes in, your cost per footage, this was what, 600,000.
Plus he was,
yeah.
he said 2,800 square feet.
Yeah.
200 square.
Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
that whole thing was just,
Right.
So the other thing I didn't talk to Corinne about it, but I was wondering if the village could throw in $250.
I think I mentioned something to her about
Oh, did you?
well,
That was the first stumbling block.
well, the town board authorized $500 for the engineer to come in and to check things out to make sure.
Brian.
Right. So there wouldn't be well, we needed some money to pay for an engineer to come in and look at things.
And you actually needed that print anyway,
So,
if you're gonna go out to do it.
so
But Sergey, this is still going up a bit, right?
this is just,
So we're at a high end of the figure right
Yeah,
now.
we are.
well, this is just a rough estimate,
Right.
so that the contractor didn't want to give us a figure because since there's no specifications,
Right.
he didn't want to be stuck with a figure that he would be held to down the road. It might be 2 years before this is done. So this is an engineer's estimate, and it's something we need to go forward, and it was done in a fairly quick pace, a week later than we had expected, but it was done. Good time, before tonight's meeting. So I guess we need a, would you like move that we'll use that figure?
Yeah,
Yeah.
150, Jim Grady moves, Jim Casella seconds, that we will use the $152,000 figure as an estimated cost to remodel the courtroom space in the village, current village hall. All in favor?
I abstain.
No.
Okay, opposed? No. Carries by majority.
Could I ask a question or make a suggestion?
Sure.
I know from conversations that I've had with the judges, and I know you did meet with the judges, that I get that they prefer the use of the present town room that they're using for the court, and that's based on health and some other issues that are there. And I'm wondering if maybe we should once again either solicit comments from the two judges or have them present
Well,
at a meeting.
this has already been decided by the vote from the committee that we're going to meet the reason they want to move it is because they don't want to go upstairs. We're moving the courtroom downstairs so that it's handicap accessible, and we'll be having space. That was the reason they wanted they wanted to move it from the village hall to the town hall, because they don't like going up and down those stairs, and they feel it's a danger. If we make everything on one floor, as the town hall currently is, then there wouldn't be any objections. Rick Wonder did talk to Jim Basello and said that they would like to have final say on how the room is designed. And of course, they would have final say on how it would be laid out. But we got an estimate to enlarge the space so that they could design it any way they wanted to once we have the space. As I said, the big reason they don't want to be in the current village hall is because of the stairs.
I know.
We're taking that out, we're putting everything downstairs, so that would take care of that problem.
But you're also spending maybe close to $150,000 to obtain that courtroom, where if you use what already exists, it wouldn't cost anything.
Well, then we'd have to rearrange the office building and down here anyway, if we're going to move all the administrative offices. And your idea was to move the courthouse and the police station to the town.
Oh,
Right, well, that's going to cost money.
It's not going to
move.
cost money to move the administrative office?
Right now, I talked to, I was down at the office, and I talked to the town clerk. He said there's 3 empty offices there right now that already have telephone, lighting, and everything, heating. There's no additional cost. I was going to bring that up. I did talk to Sal, and I said if we brought a couple of administrative people from the village hall to the town hall, would there be room, or would there be a need for major renovations? And he said, no, right now we have space for another person right in front, and if there's a need for an office for like the water department or building for water, they could move back out where the court is right now. There's a window there where the court clerk sits, and she could accept payments there if necessary, if there was going to be a separate water department office. So he said there is no need for any renovations in the current town hall for bringing additional administrative people there. That was discussed, and I already passed that information on to Diane County so they could work on the figures. So, is there? So that's been passed. Is there, what
Mayor,
was the next?
Meredith wants to report on
Okay, you have a report on the, your discussions with the union?
Yes, we have met and negotiated with both of our unions, Teamsters, and the Lyons Police Association. And the village board has actually signed memorandums of agreement with each of those unions. And what the agreement is for payment of the sick time, the vacation time, the personal time that our employees are accruing, and that related cost of retirement and FICA. And just as a general total for the amounts, for the Teamsters group, the cost would be $459,702. And for the Lyons Police Association, $144,867. Basically, that's a total of $604,569 estimated on what our employees have accrued as of right now. And that, of course, could change upward or downward depending on how this
How the time is used?
the time is used. And one of part of the agreements is that the employees would not misuse any of their time, and if they did, they would give up the right to being paid for instance, their sick time. And that the purpose of that, of course, is to keep full staff so that we can continue running the village.
Does the village have a cap on vacation time?
It's whatever our contract says. For instance, if you've been there, without looking at it, say you've been there 5 years, you get 2 weeks. So then it goes up.
But you gotta use it or lose it, or do you roll it over?
It's generally, they use it, generally.
And there's that much.
Unless you get,
It's mainly sick time, I think, that.
Yeah, the sick time, because see,
Yeah,
they're
that's
gonna
what it's
lose
approved.
the 165 days of, that would go into the New York State retirement that would buy the additional time, at 165 days, and that's part of the contract also, because they can't carry it over to the town. They're new employees, so there's no carrying it forward. Plus, our contract says that we will pay for 30 days beyond the 165 if they've accrued it. If, say, an employee who's been there 25 years has more than 195 days total, they'd only get 30 of that over and above the 165. So whatever the contract specifies as to what they would be paid for, would have been able to give to the retirement system, is what we base the figures on.
So sick time is gonna go towards the retirement?
No,
No. You're actually gonna cut a check for sick time to each
have
employee?
to, because the town can't take, and won't take the sick time because they're new employees, so nothing goes. And so,
I understand that, but I'm just, 'cause really, I mean, I don't know of anybody that pays for sick time.
our
Vacation time is worth money.
Our contract says we do.
Oh, okay. That's what your contract.
Yeah.
The school does too, right now too, so
Yeah.
I know they're gonna try to negotiate that out.
And I don't recall if at the last meeting, did we talk about the retirees?
Yes.
Okay, so those figures were presented at the last meeting. Okay, because that also is a part of what will be a debt district cost. annually.
Well, we established that it was part of it. We didn't get figures per se,
The figure,
but it was determined, it was presented that the retirees, the town would be responsible for the town employee retirees as a separate district, and the village would be responsible for their retirees.
right. Basically, the total, as of right now, cost, we have 44,000 in the fire district, the general fund, 84,000, water department, 50,095, and in the sewer department, 11,757, for a grand total of 156,560. That would be
Is that on an annual basis?
as of now,
Right,
depending on
yeah,
cost, if it goes up or down.
or if people pass away or whatever.
Right, then,
No longer retired.
and Brian has said, we investigated whether or not the retirees could be added to their present program, and they won't take retirees.
For
So
health
it would
insurance.
have to be a separate policy. Some are still in the Teamsters, and I asked the question of the Teamsters if they would continue, and they said they would. Or if we would continue to, say, Excellus.
Yeah. Okay. The other question is, have you heard anything back from the state comptroller's office on any of the questions?
Our village attorney got a call yesterday from the state comptroller's office asking if addressing some of the questions without answers.
No.
Finally, yesterday.
So they acknowledge they have the questions,
They acknowledge that they have them, but
but they haven't.
they haven't
Offered any.
responded to any of them.
That's why we had to come up with things at the last meeting and to give direction as to all the questions were asked for the state. We came up with answers. Hopefully they're correct.
And I look back today because when our attorney and I met today, just for my own information, I looked that I had contacted Rochester in early May. So it isn't a matter of,
It's
that we
right.
were dragging our feet. It was when, as the questions arose, we put them together. And,
Well, From the sounds of it, no one really expected to get an answer from them, but we had to ask. Okay, Diane, you wanna?
Well, the only other piece was next steps then.
Yep.
So we just wanted to say that we feel that the committee should plan the next meeting to take place at what we would call a progress benchmark, and where we would have something more substantial to show you, something that would be meaningful. Mainly, as I probably have mentioned before, it doesn't make sense to us to show the committee partial analysis or incomplete calculations that really are tantamount to misinformation as far as we're concerned. So, we think this would really be a cause of confusion and further delays rather than expediting things. We feel like the most expedited process moving forward would then be to schedule a meeting that's at a period of time that would be sufficient to show you substantial progress. So,
Okay, so from what I understand then, it would probably be better to have a meeting that was an executive session that you could explain to the board exactly where you stand so that we can say, okay, this is the report that we want to go forward to the village. Because if we want to, the village should accept our report prior to us showing anybody else, I think. What do you feel, Jim?
Yeah, I had one question on the, when you lay everything out, the alternatives will be what we suggested in cuts, correct?
What was determined was anything that can be implemented without dissolution would be included in the alternatives. Is that pretty much how it was said? So yes, for instance, if there were staff changes that were recommended, if they can be implemented without dissolution, then we would show them among
About the ones
the
that can't be?
alternatives. Are there any?
I can't think of any. I know we approved, 5 or 6 last time, and it was, for example, relocation, sharing, admin, both in one building, you could do that without dissolving.
Or elimination of the court?
Elimination of court could be without dissolution. I can't.
Yeah, we ran through the list
I know.
essentially.
We should look at the resolution we passed that said that when the village employees come over to the town, we go by the town.
That's all right.
Yeah.
That's
So there's a lot of savings.
That's separate from this, yeah. The
If the
No,
village
he's
still
saying
has a
is that should be-
contract, we can't, unless, if we combine the public works department
Yeah.
and the village employees were still village employees, they have a contract.
No.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
I don't understand where
Okay,
you're coming
all
from.
right. If it's dissolved,
Yeah,
right? The village employees come on as new employees with the town.
right.
right.
That's all? Okay. So now,
If it's not dissolved as an alternative,
okay.
well,
But there's
We're
probably
limited.
more money to be saved if you bring everybody over as new employees, you know that.
yeah, but that's not gonna happen if it's not dissolved.
Yeah, I guess to your point, I think what you wanted to clarify is that the.
Why is it gonna be dissolved? I thought this was,
No,
Can I?
if it's not dissolved and we want to combine the public works department, I don't know how that's going to work.
We didn't, I don't think that was an alternative, that was asked of us to include. The combining of public works was not an alternative that was
Yeah,
suggested.
because there was it was reported and approved and no change whatsoever to DPW, so that would not, the only alternatives that were approved at the last meeting were ones that could be still incorporated without dissolution.
So to your point,
And the highway could be one.
well, to your point though, the change in the per employee cost of benefits cannot take place without dissolution.
that's right.
And therefore would
That's
not
where-
show up among the alternatives.
That's where the savings is.
Okay, so
And
that's,
also to renegotiate the contracts with the police department. I mean, this is going the wrong way here for some reason. I don't.
I don't understand,
Well,
I don't understand.
As an
why-
alternative to the dissolution, you want us to put in there that we should renegotiate with the police department to have the police department go the way that we recommend if there's a dissolution.
We did that.
Yeah.
We did that.
Yeah,
No.
we have contracts, we can't.
Yeah, I know, I'm saying that is what they want in the alternative, but we can't really do
We
it
can't do it because the contracts aren't
unless
final.
we can recommend that the village renegotiate the contracts in the way that we can make that a recommendation, but we can't force the village. If the
No, I
village is
understand.
not
I
dissolved, we
understand.
can't make that an alternative,
I was under the impression where the money was going to be saved
right?
was when the village dissolved and the town hired
Right,
the village personnel.
right. And if the village is not dissolved,
Well, why wouldn't it be dissolved?
that's because we don't know if it's gonna be dissolved right today. You know, there might be a vote coming up. That's what the alternative means.
It's not,
We have said, yes, when the village dissolves, all village employees will become town employees and will become new employees as of the date they become, and that they would be they would be put into the new employee category of $5,000 maximum toward health insurance, and they'd be new employees. That is a given when the village dissolves. Now, for alternatives was that we're going to be outlining, or if the village does not dissolve for some reason, what alternatives did we come up with that could still make the village and town governments more efficient, such as combining the court system and saving money that way? That's the alternative, but our basic goal is to set up what happens when the village dissolves. And that's the main focus of our recommendations.
Okay, as long as,
Yes,
what you just said.
that's the recommendation, is the village will dissolve and all employees will become town employees and there'll be new employees.
and
And the health insurance
It would be a savings.
Right,
in other areas.
right.
Now, before our next meeting, we're gonna have all these figures together, right, for us? Any way we could,
Yeah,
That's the
the,
point.
can we get this ahead of time so we could look at it, review it before the meeting? You know,
I think that, so that things don't get leaked.
Would it be?
well, I understand that.
I think that would be meaningful. I would rather be able to, in executive session, is what.
Walk through
So
it
they
and
have-
explain.
They will hand out
I just want to get a
everything.
pamphlet handed to me, you know.
Well,
Yeah.
they're not gonna give you the pamphlet and walk away.
Okay.
We will go through the pamphlet, we'll go through it page by page, and they will explain exactly how they came up with the figures for tax savings,
Right.
what the expenses are. So that's why I'm recommending an executive session, so we can find out before everybody finds out what our recommendations amount to.
Well, and again, if there's a recommended change at that point on the part of the
Right.
committee, it would be better to publish and present to the Board of Trustees one set of figures, one, recommendation, as opposed to a series of amendments, so.
The other thing is that when they do bring their package to us and we look at it, if there's something that we look at and say, that's not what I thought we meant, they can go back and we can discuss it, and then they can go back, and before it's presented to the village, we will be unanimous in our thoughts as to what the thought process was. So,
And we expect that between now and then, that there have been, many communications between ourselves and village staff and survey and subcommittees when necessary, and that would continue, as needed, throughout this process. So we'd still be in close contact, especially with you, survey, in the next couple of weeks.
So we want a date that's far enough out so that when we meet, it's a meaningful meeting. And what we're looking at, because of conflicts,
19th?
Monday, September 23rd. Which would have the goal is to have the final report that will be submitted to the village. And how does that look for everybody?
What day?
It's a Monday.
It's a Monday.
It's a Monday, September 23rd.
I can't think that far ahead, so I'll go.
Yeah.
Right now, it's good.
I'll bring your wife.
Nope.
She would love being here for her anniversary.
Nope.
Well, we'll get a pizza, sit around, we'll celebrate the anniversary.
So they didn't say this room there was a conflict?
No, not on the 23rd.
Not on this one. So we'll be here?
Yes, we're gonna be here on the 23rd
9:23.
At 6:30.
at 6:30.
6:30.
It's going to be executive.
It's gonna be executive session. Connie gets the night off, Mark gets the night off.
Oh, okay. I was just about to make a
No.
point.
Connie realized.
No.
September 23rd.
For in terms of people getting out of work.
It will be, if it's the final report that's gonna be presented to the village, I would assume that you should plan on being here for more than an hour.
I think so.
So,
So I like to review it first.
well,
Oh, we have pizza.
yeah, if you want to, could people meet earlier? You want to meet at say 5:30 or so? We could have a pizza party and go on.
We hold it at Growers.
5:30 is fine.
We hold it at Growers.
All right, why don't we make it 5:30?
5:30. I do my work, but.
That's all right. 5:30 on September 23rd. It's here. Now, is there anything else that you need to present? Okay, so we're putting Diana County on notice that September 23rd, we expect to have a final report.
What's the judge gonna say when the 28th rolls around?
On the 20th,
Or whenever the date's due, right, the 28th?
no, they're meeting the 20th of August. And they're looking for a 60-day time frame to present it to the village. So if we can meet on the 23rd, and we agree, we'll ask for a special meeting of the village board after that date to present after the 23rd. If we sit down and we go through everything and we decide that it's, well, we want to go forward to the village board for their final hearing, or for the final report, we will ask the village board to have a special meeting so that it can be presented to them, because it has to be presented to them and accepted before we can set a, then it has to be published for 4 weeks, but you have to set a date for a public hearing.
I don't know if there's time for public hearings.
Well, no, I'm saying, after the 23rd, if we have a report, we will present it to the village board. If they accept it, it has to be published for 4 consecutive weeks.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. When it's presented to the village board and adopted, and the court tells us we have to have it completed by, hopefully, October 20th, that precludes going to the next step because it's already adopted.
The
Correct.
adoption by the village board is what was mandated by the 180, by statute for the 180
Prior
days.
to the
So it does
So
the
that's
rest
prior-
of it is
That's
null and void?
the public participation part that I mentioned earlier that it's come up before. We had originally factored in to the scope. Prior to the official public hearing that would be conducted by the village after adoption, which is part of the formal process that statute requires. Separate from that, we had built into the kind of collaborative process of drafting the plan a public education piece where you'd be able to open it up and there'd be some public feedback. And it's been right on the website since the beginning, a public input opportunity. There was one early. This would be the second one prior to the third one, which would be the formal public hearing process. That's the piece that we're recommending now having to omit, because having this shortened time, especially shortened time frame, what we're going to have to do, our recommended next step is to go directly from the financial calculations to a draft plan, just because we have such a limited amount
And
of
if the
time.
board adopts it, that's it?
Well, then the
Before?
180-day statute requirement has been met, but there's still statutory requirements for a public hearing, what Sergey was saying, the public information piece and the public hearing process, that's all post-plan creation, which is what the 180 days, discussion, the 180-day statutory requirement is strictly for the adoption of the plan by the village board. All the rest of the statutory requirements come beyond that.
After that.
After that.
After
yeah.
that, but the board itself would be required to adopt.
The board's required to adopt
Within that 180.
Yeah.
Or the
October,
additional
the October
time
20th date or
if
whatever
given.
date.
So it really doesn't give us an opportunity to, prior to the board adopting it, having the public familiar with what it contains.
So you're saying the board has to adopt it?
The board would have, once we
They can't say
present
no.
it, oh, they can. The board can look at it and say,
What do they do?
if they say, we like most of it, but there's two things that you recommended that we don't want to do, we don't think is appropriate, they send it back to the committee, and then we have to rework it to make it satisfactory to the village
Will
board.
we be there when they adopt it?
Yes,
Well, that's why the sooner the time frame, in case you make a change or
well,
need public comment.
but
So,
there won't be a public comment. What it's gonna be, it's gonna go to the village board adopts it, we're gonna do the 4 consecutive weeks of the publishing, and then there'll be a public hearing presenting it to the public. And at that time, what's the time frame after that? After the,
Final plan is approved,
so the final plan is approved.
and I believe it's the 45 days
Yeah, then there's 45 days,
to file petitions.
The statute provides for that process. And if no petitions are filed, then Lyons Dissolution first.
then the plan is done. So,
So the village meeting for to adopt or not adopt our plan, it should be in a place where there'd be a lot of people there, I'm sure.
well,
I don't think.
there will be no public comment,
No, I understand that.
but,
Well, I mean, that particular meeting would then be a village board meeting, right? So it's,
it is
so-
open to the public.
so how they conduct that meeting is kind of out of, is under.
It's not our,
Yeah.
it's not our responsibility. So with that, September 23rd, here, 5:30, with food and drink, to discuss the final plan, 5:30. So,
I think you might want to plan on there being a second meeting. If that night, I think what's realistic to expect that night is a walkthrough of the budget crosswalk, of the financial impacts, the tax rates, et cetera. I think that would be a tremendous accomplishment to get through all of that financial data. The draft plan itself would realistically be several chapters of narrative that accompanies that. To expect everyone to be able to read that in one night and vote on it, I think might be too optimistic. I think it might be a good idea to plan on that night being the walkthrough of all the financials, and then probably a few days later, a second meeting for the purpose of adopting
okay.
or approving for submission to the village board. So I think, just to be realistic, because I think to be presented with it and expected to vote on it when it's, it'll be fairly.
Well, that's why I didn't want
Yeah.
to get dumped in my lap that night
Yeah.
and make it sense.
I think that would be too
At least
optimistic.
they'll get more out of it
And,
if we go
Because I'm not a fast reader.
It's light reading,
Okay.
Yeah,
Don't get guaranteed it's pictures.
yeah,
not numbers,
the
no
spreadsheet.
pictures.
Okay,
All right.
so the 23rd, 5:30, and meeting's over.